This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon. This is MS There's Hope. Our guest today is Emily Gibson, right? And Emily, are you still teaching school
I
or
am
did you
not
retire?
teaching. I am a teacher, but
Anyway,
I am not teaching right now.
she is a very smart person, and I think she's extremely smart because she started the protocol before her disabilities got bad. And I encourage people relapsing, remitting, look into this. Yeah, you can look into diet, and I'm not doubting that the Swank or Best Bet diets or that they work. They do work, but so does the protocol. And we want to stop your disease, and I think that's what Emily is doing. And so what we're doing here with Emily, that's different than everybody before. This is how confident we are about the Coimbra protocol. We're going to walk through the protocol with Emily, and we're going to see her progress, how she's doing, her PTH numbers, maybe her vitamin D. We will not go into, except to say she takes a lot. I'll read a little medical disclaimer here, and then we're going to hop right into the interview. Thank you for being with us today, Emily.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
this interview is from our own personal experiences, and we are not talking in specifics, but rather in general about our experiences while doing the Coimbra protocol. We are not giving medical advice or addressing any individual cases. Cases and results may vary using one method or another. For this reason, medical protocols and methods of treating multiple sclerosis should be done with a licensed medical professional. I cannot uh, say that enough, people, that the protocol is not to be done on your own. High levels of vitamin D is not to be done on your own, but with a licensed medical professional. Anyway, Emily, it's good to see you again. I can't wait to hear about your progress. Emily is at what month now?
I started in February, so we've got March, April, May, June. So I'm, I think I'm starting month 5.
All right, she's in month 5. I think we interviewed you after maybe the second month to see
Yeah,
how
I
you
think
were
we
doing.
did March or beginning of April. I can't remember.
So, what do you think so far?
So far, I think it's going really well. It hasn't. I mean, it's not like it's this magic wand and all of a sudden everything goes away. It takes time. I was doing great. I went on a 6-week bicycle trip down the Pacific coast. I am a cyclist, and so getting back to that was really important to me. And so we were gone April and May, those 2 months. And when we got back, I went and did my blood work. The labs you have to do every 3 to 4 months when you're on the protocol. And then I met with my Coimbra protocol doctor and got my D jacked up. And I had a resurgence of some symptoms, which was a little anxiety producing. But I knew from talking to other people and watching the interviews that you've done that when you increase your vitamin D dosage, sometimes things happen like that. And
Every
so,
time.
yep.
Every
And
time.
so I'm coming up on tomorrow will be 2 weeks since I increased my dosage. And I'm definitely feeling better. The first day, and it almost doubled my amount of vitamin D that I'm on. And I won't tell you the number because I don't want people to think that um, I don't want people to hear that and try it without talking with the doctor. But immediately I was massively fatigued. I had headaches and my emotional dysregulation. And it was real hard
Yeah,
to keep
vitamin D
managing
is a
that.
hormone, so yeah.
Yeah. And so I messaged my doctor and she responded to up my magnesium a little bit more. So I'm on a lot of magnesium, but my body's handling the magnesium great. And every day I'm feeling a little bit better after that increase in my dosage. So,
I want to say on the protocol now, I'm not sure about this actually, so don't mark me on this. And this is something you should talk to your doctor about. But I think on the protocol, Dr. Coimbra recommends 800 to 1200 milligrams of
Mhm.
magnesium a day.
Yeah.
And some people can't take that much. Some people take it all and, have
Yeah.
no problems. So,
I'm actually on more than 1200. So, and I can tell when I don't get enough. I get this immediate emotional dysregulation where all of a sudden, I start crying or I'm just overwhelmed and I'm like, what is going on? Everything is fine. And I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't take my magnesium, my midday, because I take it in 4 doses throughout the day. So it's a real immediate check for me. And I guess what I learned was that with that mega dose of vitamin D, as your body is using the vitamin D, it needs magnesium in that processing, and so that's why we get deficient in the magnesium.
and if you are deficient in magnesium and you
Mhm.
start the protocol, um, you can get heart palpitation and things with
Mm,
your heart deregulating because now I'm not a doctor, but I would guess because it's the D coming in, using up some of the magnesium that your body needs, and all of a sudden, your heart goes to the
mhm. AFib.
AFib, yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's the electrolyte balance.
yes, exactly,
Absolutely. Hmm.
yeah. One
And
thing I
I
wanted. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to share that before I started the protocol, the parathyroid hormone, as we know, is the judge for how your body is utilizing the vitamin D. And before I started the protocol, my parathyroid hormone level was 52.
Oh,
And
that's pretty high.
um, yeah, I was at the high end of the normal range. And then, so 4 months into the protocol, after my starting dosage, my parathyroid went down to 32. And my doctor explained that the fact that it did drop showed that my body was utilizing some vitamin
Exactly.
D.
Exactly.
But the fact that it didn't drop down to below normal
Okay.
tells us that my vitamin D receptors are not processing vitamin D correctly and that we can continue. I was told that the goal is for me to be about 15
They
for my
they want
parathyroid.
you at what we call the lower end. Let's say your scale
Hmm.
in the United States, I think it's 18.4 to 88.5. Don't mark me
Hmm.
on that. But they want you at the lower end of the scale.
Hmm.
Now I'm probably at about 10 now. I've been as
Yeah.
low as 7. And so I'm off the scale. What the PTH does, people, is as we increase vitamin D, it's like a teeter totter in a way. Uh,
Hmm.
PTH goes down. PTH does nothing. All it is a
Yeah.
telltale sign that our body is absorbing D now. As your
Hmm.
body absorbs the D, your PTH is going to go down. So what we see with Emily is Emily started at 40 what?
52.
52. Now
Hmm.
she's down to 30. We're going to increase her D a little bit more, causing her PTH goes down. But that's
Yep.
monitored by a doctor. And that's
Yeah.
why it's so important uh, to use a doctor. If you drive your PTH too low, it'll actually cause calcium to leach out from your bones. And you don't want
Mm.
that. That could cause osteoporosis or something like that. Anyway, go ahead, Emily. I'm taking over the interview again, which I always do.
Well, that's why you do the interview, so you can talk, right?
Yes, yes. My,
um,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So there's I just feel really really good. The only thing right now for me, I mean, I'm still dealing with a little bit of the fatigue, and I'm dealing with a little bit of recurrence of some of my neurological symptoms, which are just balance, and just kind of feeling stable. And so, again, I'm not worried about that because I know that as the vitamin D starts working, my doctor told me that it starts, actually repairing. And so you find these resurgence of symptoms because the vitamin D is repairing the damage over time.
I've got to tell you something, Emily, that I thought of yesterday or today. I don't know. the longer that I'm on the protocol, and I'm not
Hmm.
doing it like I used to, but the longer that I'm doing this, folks, the more adamant I am about it. And that is
Hmm.
because you watch Emily Day and you watch me Day. We laugh a lot, we smile good, but she hit the nail right on the head. You feel good.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me that had advanced really far, to say that I feel good and I think I feel better
Hmm.
than I did 20 years ago. And to see people with some of these symptoms just breaks your heart. I mean,
Yeah.
you just want to grab a hold of them and say it doesn't have to be this way. And
Hmm.
you know, here Emily's jumping in before she gets bad, and that's the great that's what I want more people to listen to her and everything because that's what we want. You don't want to get like I was. I was misdiagnosed 15 years, and by the time I finally found out about the protocol, I was already in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And we want to avoid you going to the wheelchair. And Emily is showing here she's feeling good, she's smiling, she's happy, she's on high doses of vitamin D, people under her doctor's supervision, and she's not getting toxic. She's not getting sick, you know.
I
And
I am I just got back from a 6 week bicycle trip. I bicycled 1,400 miles
while on the protocol, people,
while on the protocol. And yeah, I was diagnosed a year ago. I had really severe symptoms, but not disabling symptoms. I caught it quickly and started the protocol as soon as I could. But um, my whole mission is to share the information so that people don't get trapped in the pharmaceutical and regular medical interventions.
doctors are going to
That
try to scare you and say vitamin D
Yeah.
is dangerous and toxic. That's a true statement, people. But if you stay on the protocol under a doctor's supervision and you drink the
Mhm.
2.5 liters of water a day and you get your blood checked, you're fine,
Yeah, it's
and
it's
doctors
so
just
much
don't know.
more manageable than so many of the medical interventions.
What's
And
the hardest part for you of the protocol?
the hardest part for me has been my calcium because on the diet that I eat, I tend to not get enough calcium. So I have to track my food in a food diary. It's an app on my phone, and I have to track my food and make sure I get enough calcium because I tend to not get enough. And that's the hardest part for me is tracking my food because I like to cook my own food. And sometimes I make this recipe and it's like, how am I supposed to enter this in? So that's the hardest part. It's not drinking the water. It's not taking the vitamin D pills. I already, didn't eat dairy, which is one of the things you have to deal with on the protocol to reduce your amount of calcium. So I would say it's tracking my food to make sure I get enough calcium.
And we want to remind people too, this is a low calcium diet. It's not
Hmm.
a no calcium diet
Yes.
because at first people are like, well, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah. Anything
you,
that naturally has calcium in it,
yeah,
that's fine. You don't want things that have it added.
right.
Like,
Especially like orange juice. I think they add calcium in it.
yeah, I
And
can make my
certain,
own
but
orange juice from oranges. That's totally fine, right? And there's a lot of the non-dairy milks have added calcium in them now. And so I actually have two. I have a kind that doesn't have any calcium and a kind that has calcium. So if I get to the end of the day and I'm short 200 milligrams of calcium, I just drink half a cup of that milk and I'm fine. Um, so
did you ever think, how can it be that easy? Did you ever have that thought that, man, this seems really simple. Why haven't I heard about this?
Well, absolutely. I was just super lucky that I stumbled across it um, early on. I saw a video of yours of some interviews you were doing. And I was like, oh, because I was trying to find what's wrong, what's at the root cause of this, and can we fix that? And this is my best chance at letting my body repair itself.
You know
It's
what?
amazing.
It is so, I said this, it's so simple to somebody one time. They got mad at me because all their kids were on the protocol too, or doing
Hmm.
vitamins. And so they were getting up every morning and divvying out the pills, and it was a whole
Yeah.
bunch of them. And they're like, I don't know, they were a mother too. And so they were like, I don't know where you're getting it. It's easy. Uh, Folks, I want to tell you something. I drink 84 ounces of water a day, and that's by far the hardest thing of my life because I take
Hmm.
my vitamin D and my magnesium in the morning, and I just got to make sure that by 5 o'clock I drink all that water, because if
Hmm.
you drink it at 9 o'clock, you're going to get up and go to the bathroom at night.
Right.
It's just, and the only other thing about that is you have to know where all the bathrooms are when you go out, because when you
Yeah.
get all that water in there, it's got to go somewhere. So
Absolutely.
that's, but you know what? It's so easy and so simple. And I'm so, I don't know about you. First of all, thank you for backing me up on some of these pages that I get kicked off of. Thank God these other ones aren't kicking me off, but it's it's considered an alternative medicine or an
Hmm.
alternative way. And okay, you can say that, but it's when it began in the beginning. Now I'm not sure now, but in the beginning, when Dr. Coinbrook, who keeps meticulous records, when he was documented, 92 or 93% of the people got better and their
Hmm.
disease stopped. And the people whose disease didn't stop still saw a benefit from the protocol.
Hmm.
So I'm just, as I get older, as I get better, and as I see people on pages with all these symptoms, I mean, just staggering and just brain
Hmm.
fog and double vision and all the things that go on with MS, I just want to scream and grab them by the ankles and say it doesn't have to be that way. But I want to tell you something, Emily. I've learned there's too many people out there like you looking that want
Hmm.
an answer,
Yep.
but worry about the people that want to argue with me about vitamin D consumption. I don't argue with people anymore. I if they want to debate me, I will debate them using the protocol. But I'm just there's too many people
Yeah.
like you out there.
I back you up on that. I think that for me, I did one round of rituximab when I was first diagnosed because my disease was so active and my neurologist was really worried and I didn't know anything else. I didn't know any other options. And then I read about what it was actually doing. And I was just like, this is actually, killing off, cells in my body. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to help my body heal. And so when I stumbled across this, it was like, oh, and I had this conversation with my primary care doctor and my neurologist. And my primary care was very supportive of doing something like this. And he was able to advocate with my neurologist so that my insurance is paying for the labs, which is really
Oh,
nice.
that's
Um,
wonderful.
and my
Let me
neurologist
get
is
something.
still,
How
hmm?
much? How much would you say you spend per month on the protocol?
um, well, I don't count the labs because they're part of my insurance.
Right,
So it's just part of
right,
my health insurance. So it's the vitamin D and the magnesium and my multivitamins that I get from my doctor.
exactly,
And
exactly.
I couldn't tell you how much it is. I just ordered new vitamin D, CP vitamins, and magnesium, but I
All
don't
right,
know.
maybe I should tell what I spend
Maybe,
then.
maybe I spend $60 a month.
I
You think?
spend 50, 32, 82, and 10. I spend $92 a month.
Hmm.
But you know what, people? I've had people tell me they couldn't afford that. I'm like, that is you spend that much money on somewhere else. I mean, come
Hmm.
on, this is your health, and I'm telling you, you could feel better than you ever felt in your life. And you tell me you can't come up with $92. Eventually, we're going to sell shirts that say MS There's Hope, and the
Hmm.
proceeds from that will help people, probably starting off in third world countries, but probably I will help anybody that wants to do this. that doesn't have the money. I had, and the reason behind that is when I started this,
It's
I didn't have the
it's a
money.
way to heal. And
I didn't have the money to pay for my doctor, and somebody paid for me. It was like $200
Mhm.
back then. Doctors aren't that expensive either, folks. Even if you got to pay out of pocket.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think there's a little delay happening, so I'm sorry that I cut you off there. Um, the I have to pay for my doctor out of pocket, and that's 150 or 175 each time. That's every 3 months. So
Nothing.
that's nothing.
No,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, for
people
me, I
just
could
got to
do
make
that.
it a
But
priority.
anyway, yeah, I'm
Well,
super grateful, and I just want to keep sharing this information so that people who are interested and able can
yes.
access it and see if it's going to work for them. But,
I
so my next check-in will be in September. That's my next labs.
well, we'll interview you then, and look forward to just getting better and better. I can say this: I expect you just to get better and better. And I mean, you started at the right time, and I'm very grateful for you chiming in whenever I make a lot of comments on Facebook and things like that, and it's good to have
Hmm.
support because for a long time I was saying things and people would agree, but they wouldn't, you get these naysayers on there. Oh, vitamin D is bad for you. Vitamin
Hmm.
D is toxic. And they make toxic sound like fatal. Vitamin D is toxic. If you don't drink all the water, it could be
Hmm.
toxic, but it's not fatal, people.
Hmm.
One of the side effects from a very popular drug, I'm not going to say what it is, one of the side effects, death. And do doctors tell you that when they prescribe it to you? I kind of doubt it. Well, you could take this medicine, but it might kill you. I doubt they say that. They may say, well, one of the side effects is death, but that's been very rare. Well, I want to tell you this.
If you yeah, if you
Very,
follow the protocol and do what's lined out in there, you are protecting your kidneys and you're protecting your
yes,
bones. If you
absolutely.
do, if you mess around with vitamin D without understanding and without having all the layers in place, you can, do damage to your
Absolutely.
kidneys and do damage to your
Absolutely.
bones. But you don't have
Absolutely.
to. You can do this safely.
Anna Claudia Devine wrote Vitamin D and lots of it. And there's a book on Amazon you can get. She was the first American patient, I think, that did the Coimbra Protocol. She's got to be at like 14
Hmm.
years now. 14 years, people. She's a school teacher. Her life is great.
Hmm.
That's the thing that I want to put out there is that your life can be great again and your disease can be stopped. The Coimbra Protocol is not a cure. It stops your disease. And so I don't think about MS anymore. I don't worry about MS anymore. And it makes me so adamant now to tell people that. But I mean, I feel so good now that I really don't care what you have to say about vitamin D. I know what it's done for me, and you can look at Emily and see what it's doing for her, and it's almost miraculous in a way. So listen, Emily, I took over the interview. I think I talked as much as you, but I think because of seeing people say things about vitamin D and how it's bad for you and all these things that I feel like I'm more vocal. It kind of really struck a nerve with me,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
because
Well,
doctors,
carry
that's
on. You're doing great work in getting the word out there. It's super
thank you.
important.
Keep backing me up. If you don't, I'm going to come hunt you down. All right, Emily.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks. I really appreciate the interview. And we look forward to seeing Emily. And, well, I just got to run out of time. We look forward to seeing Emily in a few months. All right. Take
Yep.
care. If
Sounds good. All right.
I can turn off our interview, then it will be over.